Do you have any old rigs that need some updating? What kind is it? Let me know. Today I would love to at least take a look at this old Wreckluse from RCP Crawlers that, in my opinion, needs a little love. So I have lots of classic crawlers still in my collection, and most of them probably need some work by this point because as new rigs came out, I mostly just bought new rigs instead of updating my old ones because I have a problem. Let's be honest, maybe you also have a similar problem. My problem is, of course, having too many projects and not getting to them all when I should. But is that really a problem? These things don't go bad on the shelf, so I can literally keep them on the shelf for a decade, just like this one. And if you look, it's got a little patina, we'll call it. But before we get started, how about if I just give her just a little spritz? Windex is a pretty good thing to clean it off with. I don't want to clean it too much, but just enough. It needs to be slightly more presentable. This particular rig, the chassis was originally released by RCP Crawlers, and Wrecker, I believe, was the original designer of it, and he licensed it to them. This particular rig was actually built by Chip Cross. Anybody who has been in the community for a very long time will remember Chip. Rest in peace. He died due to cancer quite a few years ago. And he was an extremely good, just upstanding person in our community. He actually traded me this rig for a grip of electronics, and I wanted to give him more than what I figured it was worth. I mean, he probably traded it for a couple $100 to be honest, and I was trying to give him twice what he wanted, and he was done with it. He was tired of it. He had built this custom interior for it, and I guess he didn't like the way that it crawled, or whatever the case was, or maybe he was just trying to do me a solid with a good trade. Whatever the case was, we can't ask him now. But true to his form in the community, he traded me this awesome rig for too good of a deal, and I have not been able to part with it since. Partially because it's a Wreckluse and they're really hard to get, and partially because it was Chip's old rig and he was a good friend. And he did a really good job on the interior as well. This was before scratch building interiors was a common thing. So for me, it was just an amazing looking rig. You can see I've got Terrell shoved in here. We have a really old BRXL. This guy is probably a decade plus, looking at that sticker design. And a old RX, Futaba RX that I potted myself. This is, we still do all of our ESC waterproofing in-house. And this one was just a radio that, you know, did it myself, and it worked. It worked for waterproofing. Still going strong today, even though my radio needs an update. And of course, back when I was sponsored by Futaba, here is a BLS 152. I am sure by today's standards, this brushless servo is very weak, but it's been in this rig since the beginning, so I didn't want to do anything with it. Now, I'm not sure if this is an original Wrecker or not. I was told that it was. It is made of hollow tubing, but I'm not sure if that was actually the case. I do know that I have an original of some other chassis that I have, but I'm not sure if this one is. So let's just take a look at what needs to be updated on this thing. These are original AX10 axles, and as such, well, of course, they're still all complete plastic on here. I'm assuming, that these are set screw axles. They are so old that they merely have set screws holding them in, and these are Stampede drive shafts with the metal ends on them. That really dates the rig. I would assume that the last time that I worked on this was probably 2008, maybe 2009. I don't know, when did these guys come out? Maybe y'all could do a little searchy search on RC Crawler, figure that out. And of course, the set screws are probably completely stripped out. So there's not much chance that I'm actually going to be able to work on these axles. Yeah, one of them's completely stripped out. These are definitely set screws. Yeah, no cross pin holes for us. This is This is back in the early days when we had to go uphill both ways. And it seems, oh yeah, hey, look at there. The typical issue. I didn't even have to loosen that one. It just slipped right off. Yeah, oh, and we got our original 3 links on there. Maybe the overhead cam can get that shot. On the top of the axle is a broken, I can see now, 3-link holder, and then a plastic 3-link, well, it's 4-link. It is 4-link, but the top 2 links have a little Y joint on there, and that one always failed. The holding portion, it's basically a hole, and then your ball end goes through that. And of course, ball ends will just pull right out, so you got to put a washer on the back to keep it. And the first time that sucker popped out, it would usually break the plastic, and I can see now. I mean, I can probably just, oh no, I got the washer on there, so it won't pop out. Yeah, this thing really needs a big rebuild. We'll have to rebuild the transmission, which looks like it actually has a really old Vanquish transmission in here, combined with a Billet Works machine motor plate, and what looks to be, possibly an old 4-magnet can torque master. Yeah, really old parts as far as, you know, the crawler industry is concerned. This is, yeah, well, this is a classic. I always loved the way that it drove, though. It didn't drive great by any means. It has a pretty terrible roll center, as you can see. All this chassis roll. I shouldn't really be able to do this, but as soon as you hit the throttle on it, it just go. But that's part of what made it fun. And back in the day, nobody really knew suspension geometry very well. I mean, check out this fancy steering geometry there. It's a 4-link, but it has a chassis-mounted servo, which means that it also has a ton of bump steer. And you can, maybe hard to perceive on the camera, but there's a lot of bump steer there. Well, even rocking side to side, man, the axle is wagging back and forth. Good times, back when everything was simpler and we honestly would take a lot. We would definitely take a lot of downsides to our rigs in order for them to just look good. So, there we go. For the time being, I'm not going to do any work on this, but I can tell that I'm going to need to replace a lot of the parts on here if I want to get it running again. And of course, the axle geometry, the suspension geometry leaves a lot to be desired, but maybe I could work on that if I, well, we can't raise the roll center on the rear anymore, or the front. I'm going to have to think hard about this. I would like to get it running once I finish a few more projects, of course. The Sherpa build is one that needs to be done before I get to this, because this one just looks good sitting on the shelf. Let me know in the comments if you do have any older projects like this, some older rigs like this that maybe have some bent parts on them and need to be updated. You know, I'm actually concerned that I may not be able to find axle housings and axle parts for these anymore. I'm not sure if anybody is still making the AX10, SCX10 original style parts. Those have kind of fallen to the wayside since the new SCX10-2 came out, and they have done a good job about the scaleness of it. These axles aren't exactly scale, but that's fine, that's fine. So for now, I'm just gonna put this back on the shelf. You can enjoy it in the back for a while. Terrell, you keep it safe for me. Keep those bad guys away. And for now, I do thank you for tuning in. Have a good day.